FileZilla is actually a free FTP client that offers many advanced features. And what's interesting about it is that you can actually download this client and use it for everything that you need to upload files, rename files, folders, create folders, change permissions. You can basically do everything with FileZilla. It's actually quite amazing. So to download the client, simply go to filezilla-project.org and then simply download the version that's compatible with your computer. If you're on Windows, you're obviously going to want to download the Windows version. If you're on Mac or Linux, you're going to want to go here for all platforms. In my case, I will be downloading the Mac version. Note that while I'm shooting this video on a Mac, the video will actually be very useful for those of you that are on a Windows computer as well, since the FileZilla interface is practically the same for both Windows and Mac. So simply download the client. So after FileZilla has finished downloading, if the file is archived, you're going to want to unarchive it. And after unarchiving and after installing FileZilla, simply launch the client. So next you will want to connect to your host. In my case, I will just enter in my domain. If you have an FTP URL, you're going to actually want to use that instead. For the username, simply enter in your username. And for the password, simply enter in your password. Note that you created this information while setting up your hosting account or server. If you don't recall creating this information, there are actually hosts that create this information automatically for you, and they send this information in an email. So you will actually want to look through your emails and locate the information. For the port, you can leave it on default, which is 21 for FTP or 22 for SFTP. I'm just going to leave it empty and use a default. If this doesn't work for you, you're actually going to want to look in the help section of your host or through your emails and see which port they use. Note that there's also a way to actually save this information. For example, if you click on this icon right here, you can add multiple sites and automatically connect to them each time you use FileZilla, so you can actually organize yourself and not have to worry about entering in this information each time you connect. And there's also a lot of different settings that you can choose. And you can even choose the transfer settings, for example, the transfer mode between active or passive, or leave it on default. So after connecting to your server, you will notice that there's windows here on the left side as well as the right side. This right here is your local computer, and this is your remote server. So to find files on your local computer, you simply look through the directories that you want to access. For example, I want to upload some images, so I'm going to go into flags here. And on my remote site, I will simply expand here, and I will locate the directory that I want to upload to, which in my case is public_HTML. Of course, this directory may be different on your server, so you will have to decide on your own which directory you want to upload to. After going within the directory, you will notice the directories and files here, which is actually an up-close look of what's in this directory, where you can actually see the directories here as well, but this is an up-close look where you can actually see files. Note that you can actually expand the FileZilla, and you can even move this so that you can see the files a bit better. So now if you want to upload to your public_HTML, you simply make sure that the remote site path here is correct. For example, if you want to upload to store, you would make sure that store is visible here before actually uploading anything. In my case, I'm just going to upload to my public directory here. And then I go to the file that I want to upload, and I right click and I left click on upload. And now, as you can see, my file has been uploaded, my image file here, and I can actually rename this file if I'd like so. Now, if I want to upload an entire directory, I can just go back here like so, and I can just left click, right click, and then left click on upload to upload the entire directory. And as you can see, the directory is being uploaded and has been uploaded. And now I can actually change the permissions of this directory by right-clicking and left-clicking on File Permissions. And for example, I can change it. Say, for example, I wanted 777. I would enter it like so, and then I would click OK. And if you want all sub-directories that are within that directory To also have 777 permissions, you simply check off this box to actually apply it to, and then you choose whether you want to apply it to all files and directories, or just to files, or just to directories, and then you click on OK, and then everything within that directory will have the same permissions as well, as you can see. Now if I wanted to create a directory within this directory, I simply make sure that I'm in it, and then, or I can go here, just make sure that the path is displaying correctly, and then I right click and left click on create directory. I can, for example, enter in states and click OK, and now that directory has been created. And I can also change the permissions of this like so. In addition to that, you can also drag the directory in it instead of right clicking and then left clicking on upload. And you can also add to queue. For example, we can go within states like so, and then we can go to our directory here, and I can right click and left click on add to queue. And now if I also want to add a file from within here, I can add this to queue as well. And this is all displayed here, as you can see in the list. And then I simply go to transfer here, and I left click on process queue. And as you can see, everything has been uploaded to my states, including that green apple. Note that I can also move a file. For example, I can move this image to my flags directory by simply left clicking and holding down and then dragging to flags, and I simply moved it with just one drag of a mouse button right here. And now if I'd like, I can actually upload a directory. For example, I have my flags directory. Say I move on my local computer a file. So say now I want to upload this dandelion image to my flags directory, but what I want to do is I actually want to upload this whole directory, but without overwriting any of the files that already exist. What I do is I actually go back to my states here, which is where the flags directory is located. And then I go to my flags directory here, and I right click and I left click on upload. And now it's actually going to ask me if I want to overwrite the existing files. Now if I click on overwrite, what's going to happen is if I have any modified files within that directory, those modified files will actually be overwritten by the older files that I have in this directory that I'm uploading from. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to skip. The alternative is you can actually choose to overwrite if source newer, or overwrite if different in size, or overwrite if different size or source newer. So again, you will actually have to decide on your own, and you could also have rename if you'd like. And then you can also choose an action. For example, you can choose to apply this action only to current queue. So now I click on OK, and all those other files that already exist will be skipped, and instead only that dandelion image was uploaded. As for the default file exist actions, you can actually set them by going to FileZilla and then Preferences, and then where it says Transfers, if you go to file exist actions, you can actually choose one. For example, if you can actually choose skip file so that it no longer asks for an action, and then click OK. And then when you close, and then say for example, let's close FileZilla and restart it again. And now when we go back in, when we go to Preferences and we go to File Exist Actions, as you can see, will be skip file. So now when we connect to our server, so let's say now we wanted to upload that directory to that other directory which we have with flags in it that doesn't contain that dandelion image. what we do is we make sure that we're uploading to public because we want to actually upload the flags directory, but what we want to do is we only want to upload the dandelion image. So what we do is we go back to flags here and we right click and then left click on upload. And what happens is now it's actually going to skip all of the other directories. As for example, it skipped this states directory, so it didn't overwrite it and it didn't actually delete anything. All it did was add that dandelion image. Note that you can also change the default file exists action for the current session by going to transfer here and then going to default file exists action and changing it. Just remember that this setting is only for the current session. So once you start a new session, the changes will actually roll back to what they were before changing them. So to make permanent changes, you go to filezilla here and then preferences, and then you go to file exists action over here. So now let's say we want to edit a file that's on our server. So we go to the directory where that file is located, which in my case is in public_HTML. And then I simply locate the file. For example, it will be my index.php file. And what I can do is I can either download it or I can go to view and edit here. And then you can actually choose your editor. For example, you can use the default or you can use a custom program by going like so. I'm actually going to show you both ways how you can download and then locate it on your computer, or you can use this. So I will just use the text edit app here and I will click OK. And that file is actually being opened, and here it is. There's the file. So now what I would do is I would actually make the changes to the file. Say for example I want to comment this line out, and then I save that file to a directory where I actually remember where it would be located. For example, we can go to my documents here and I'm going to save it there. And note that the file actually, what it did is it actually removed my extension, but I can fix this, it's not a problem. So I go back here to where my documents is. I'm just going to change it here because it's faster for me to find. And there's that index file, but as you can see it was saved as .txt. So I'm actually going to rename the file to .php. So now since I changed the default file exist action, it will actually skip this file and it won't actually overwrite. So what I have to do is I have to go back to transfer and I have to go to default file exist action, and for upload I'm going to use overwrite only for this session so that I can actually overwrite that file that's already on my server. And now I'm going to upload, and now that file has been overwritten. So now when I view and edit, so I'm actually going to discard the local file and just reopen the remote file to see the changes. And as you can see, the changes did take effect because that line was commented out. So now I can also download the file though, like so. But see, now again it was skipped because of my default file exists. So I go back to transfer here. And what I do is I go to overwrite. Again, this is for this session. Just be careful when playing around with these overwrite settings because you don't want to overwrite files that you actually want to keep. So now I'm going to download once more, and now I have this file on my local computer here, which is in my documents. So when I go here, I will see it, and this is another way that I can edit. I can edit like so. And now what I can do is I can actually save it like so. And now this file is right here. And now when I upload again, and view and edit, and I'm going to discard once more, as you can see that line is no longer commented out. So basically this is how files. So thanks for more videos, and also be sure to check out creatingawebstore.com.